Right. So today we're going to learn about the prokaryotic cells. Now, prokaryotic cells uh, are the different type of cells which actually exist in our planet from the very beginning. Um, the form of life that we say that exists now, it actually came from the prokaryotic cells only. The word prokaryotic cell, it means primitive carrion or primitive nucleus. The word itself, as it is saying that it is a primitive nucleus type, it actually means that the nucleus of this kind of cells does not have all the different type of division structures, forms that we normally see in case of a eukaryotic cell. So, eukaryotic cell, as you know, eukaryotic nucleus are made up of membrane. It has a membrane-bound structure. It has chromosome. It has chromatin network inside, which is mainly the DNA bound with certain histone proteins. It has a nucleoplasm, which is a matrix which is specific for the nucleus, and also has got a thick, dense region called the nucleolus, which carries large number of RNA along with the DNA. Now, the DNA is the most important thing here because the DNA definitely is the one which carry all the genetic information. That means it is the one responsible for giving all the character to the cell. Whatever property the cell is going to retain, whatever form the cell is going to take, whatever feature the cell is going to have, everything is there written in this DNA. So definitely the DNA has to be there. In case of a prokaryotic cell, it will become much primitive. The nucleus here is going to be only a single circular DNA which is not bound by any membrane, and the entirety of this structure will be covered by a plasma membrane, which is just a membrane bilayer. Now, the plasma membrane, it holds the entire structure of the cell together, and inside we'll be finding a matrix of several components, which is called the protoplasm, which is just like the cytoplasm we have studied once before, but here the nucleus remains freely floating, forming the structure known as the nucleoid. Now, it has the outermost boundary, which is the cell wall, which is made up of peptidoglycan, a polymer of, or rather, we should say, a heteropolymer of N-acetylglucosamine and N-acetylmuramic acid, which forms the main chain and which are cross-linked by several small amino acids, forming a small peptide which forms the interlinking bridge, and thus we find the entire structure formed. Now, this peptidoglycan, it covers or it gives rigidity to the entire cell and also is responsible for giving the shape to the cell. Beyond this, there will be another layer made up of mostly sugar, which is called a glycocalyx, and these glycocalyx are usually responsible for giving protection and some sort of uh, capacity to gather food. It creates a kind of a sticky medium in which one, the cell remains protected inside. Second, it is the one which actually gives the property to capture food and nutrient for the plant. Oh yes, this is definitely a plant cell because it has a cell wall. Now the glycocalyx are of two types. One is called the capsule, which is quite hard in structure and shape and form and gives mainly protection, or it can be of the slime layer, which is a softer version of it and mostly found in many of the known microorganisms around. Now, along with it, we can find that in the cell there will be a large number of mRNA. mRNA or messenger RNA are the RNA which is found from the after transcription of the DNA, and it mostly carries a gene which is going to be translated further, and the necessary protein will be made out of it. Now, for that reason, ribosomes are required. Well, the ribosome will be of 70S variety. Now, the ribosome are usually attached to a single mRNA in quite large number, forming a structure known as a polyribosome. Now, this is all because an mRNA has a very short shelf life, means it actually gets degraded very fast. So, within that small period of time that it is there, it has to be translated further, and the large number of protein that is necessary for the cell has to be made. That's why, at a single moment, numerous ribosome gets adhered to the mRNA and translates it, resulting in easier and better production of proteins that are necessary. Now, beyond this, we will find that there are small circular extra chromosomal DNA that are there, and these extra chromosomal DNAs are known as the plasmid, which is responsible for like giving additional property to the cell. For instance, the antibiotic resistance property. Now, the antibiotic resistance property is something that will be found in the plasmid, not in the nucleoid. There are respiratory enzymes, or even there are enzymes responsible for the process of the photosynthesis that can be found adhered to the membrane of the prokaryotic cell, and this all helps in all the property, all the function that the cell needs to do. Flagellum will be an extra structure which is present in some of the cell, or you can say some type of the organism, and it may not be present in some of them. Now, the flagellum is a long tail like structure which is mostly responsible for movement or motility of the bacterium or the cell, you can say. Now, it is bound to the membrane, and the membrane thing called the basal region or the base plate region of the flagellum, which triggers the or initiates the entire movement by which the cell can actually move through water bodies and all. The flagellum can be in one side, or it can be both the side, or it can be in the entirety of the cell, depending on which these are named in different forms and types of it. After this, we can sometimes find that the entire body of the bacteria gets covered with pili or fimbriae, which are small projections just like the flagellum, but these projections are not responsible for motility, but rather these projections are responsible for giving adherence to the cell, means the cell can go and adhere to certain surface. Thus, this forms the entire structure of a prokaryotic cell.